Good morning, and I welcome you to this particular session on your D3. And as you know, we are going to go forward with our this thing meditation and journaling. And one thing that I wanted to announce is tomorrow, which is Friday, on the 5th of July, I'll be having a session in Warren. With respect to it will be live, and I'll share it on YouTube as well. Now this particular session will be on how to integrate your entire prep with tech. So I mean why should you fall behind in terms of preparing your notes or anything that you need? So and also for a lot of you who are joining online or offline in that particular session, we'll also make those groups that I was talking about, that if you want to prepare, then you should have access to the best tools that are available in the market. So first we will have access to GPT 3. GPT 4.0, and for some students, if they want, they can also have access to something like Copilot, especially people from econ background. You should have a some kind of a background in Copilot, so that you can use data, you know how to use data. And again, it's a very assistive tool, but at the same point of time, you should have a good system to support it. Now coming to tomorrow's session that we are going to have. I hope all of you have a laptop. Copilot is free for Windows. Yes, it is free for Windows, but it is only the preview version. You can see it on the right side of my screen. Can you see this? This is the free version. A window will just open. It is opening on my other this thing. I'll show it to you today. So you can ask a lot of questions to Copilot as well. So depending on your need. For example, I definitely need Copilot, but at the same point of time, I need a better system to support my the kind of analytics that I want from my Copilot. So because I'm going to integrate it with my Excel to create certain dashboards. The same thing I will do it for you for your econ prep, whether it's GS prep or whether it's your econ optional prep. A very data oriented prep where you should know each and every number that we are talking about. So this is about it, but irrespective whether you're from econ or not, you should have an idea how to use the AI tools for your use. So and then a little bit of automation. The next session that we are going to have after tomorrow, because it will be the first time that a lot of you will be introduced to the tech side of the world. So the subsequent session, I will also teach you automation, where I'll teach you that how you can automate your entire current affairs prep, and automatically the files that you're creating, or the chat window that you have, you can directly link it to a particular Google sheet where your response are being copied. So that kind of sophistication is possible with a lot of these softwares. So in any case, this is something that we're going to do in the coming days as well. So you can attend the session tomorrow at 2 o'clock live, or on the recorded version. All right, and I will also give you a call today, folks, with respect to people who are exclusively part of D3, not as a part of the optional. All right, folks. So let's talk about today's newspaper. We have already talked about the issue with respect to the stampede that was there, and this Hasrat preacher with respect to the stampede, as well as the deaths were there. Also, we had discussed yesterday, if you remember, crowd management techniques. Now this is something as a question you should be prepared for, and maybe something on preachers as well. So have a look at that particular issue. Now, apart from that, the Sensex has breached the 80,000 mark for the first time, and it has doubled in the last 5 years, and it took 12 years to climb from 20,000 to 40,000. So, but that is also an assessment only of the top 30 companies. So you should know what Sensex is, or what Sensex is. So then hope for peace, violence down. PM on Manipur. Maybe you can read that. Now, as I said, let's go to the meat of the newspaper. let's come to an unexpected bounty. Now, this is very, very important again, an article. Now, these are articles especially for people like economics optional. You should have this option, this kind of articles ready with you, because they give you an analysis into the economy, and this is the kind of analysis that you also need while you are preparing for your exam. Now, this particular article is basically talking about what are the considerations that you should have, that our government should have for the upcoming budget. Now, for this, there is a topic that you will do in your money and banking, which is the balance sheet of the RBI, and there we will talk about that. One of the key elements is that the transfer of dividend that it does to the government of India. Now, this year what has happened is, it is I mean the government is going to get around 2.11 lakh crore rupees for as surplus, which is the surplus of RBI, and it will go to the government of India as an unexpected bounty. Now, this is what should the government do with respect to that particular money. So the first thing is that we should be guided by a fiscal the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, which basically caps our fiscal deficit at 3%. Now, this is something that you as a GS student and an optional student should know. And the second thing is that we are not very rigid about this FRBM. There can be variances in it. For example, you can be extra good at your good times. So when the economy is doing well, your deficit should reduce, and if the economy is doing badly, your deficit can increase. So the government should understand the importance of counter cyclical policy. This is called as counter cyclical. So to counter the cycle that is there, you take those actions. So remember this word. It's a very important word, whether you're talking about your interview or for your GS mains as well. Now, so the government is basically saying that we are going to use all this extra money that we are going to raise for any kind of capital expenditure. But what the author basically talks about is that you need to prioritize these expenditures as well. So yes, you also need to see the situation right now, and if you see right now, the debt levels are extremely high, and in the last 20 years the debt levels were around 4.6%, and we can understand the during the pandemic that the fiscal deficit was up to 9.6%, but then still it is around 5.1% when the economy has recovered. Now, what this also shows is that because the center has been slow on fiscal consolidation, the state's fiscal deficit is also high, and the overall debt to GDP ratio. This is something that you should know, folks, as an economic student, both for GS and economics. The debt to GDP ratio, which should be around 60%, the total debt to GDP ratio should be around 60%, was around 80% recently, and it is as in the last few years, it is average around 74%. Now, the issue is that what should the government do with this 2.11 lakh crore rupees that it is getting? Should it invest in infrastructure? Should it go for capex, or should it reduce the deficits? The author basically says that the government should reduce the deficits because of the fact, because of the fact that at times you build infrastructure for the sake of building infrastructure. For example, it gives an example of China, where it had at times built 2 to 3 airports where even one was needed, and now it is not about building the infrastructure, it's also about maintaining the infrastructure. That is the hard part. So same thing India is also doing. India is building a lot of infrastructure at a very fast pace, but we also need to think about how do we have the money to sustain that infrastructure or not. And then not all capex is good. For example, 1.6 lakh crore rupees for revitalizing telecoms like MTNL, BSNL, as well as and bullet trains is something which is not very feasible for a country where the population has per capita income of less than $2,500. So all of this basically talks about the fact that if all is not well, then the economists or the government should basically spend it on capex. But if all is well, why do you need that? So this is one article. The other article is after the stampede. We had already talked about this particular issue, and the government of the day has said that it finds maybe a conspiracy behind all of this, and there is there is a conspiracy behind this entire incident. But at the same point of time, it cannot abrogate the responsibility that is there in the administration. You cannot abrogate the responsibility that is there in the administration with respect to events such as these religious events, weddings, festivals, functions. So all of them, the role of the administration is not to just provide a license and a go ahead. It should also think about the entire the entire periphery of the thing. For example, what is the crowd management rule, and how are they implemented, whether exit signs are there or not. So all of that, the temperature of that particular time, availability of water, all these issues should be there while organizing any such event. So this is the article, you can read about it. Then yeah, this is a very interesting article that I found, that with respect to a new law wants people to work 6 days out of 7 days. Now this is something that you can keep as an example for your essay, ethics, as well as for economics. Now what John Maynard Keynes had said, that he had predicted 100 years from now people will be working only 15 hours a week. But imagine now countries like Greece are opening up their legislations and saying that 6 days working is allowed, whereas the entire other part of the Europe is basically saying 4 days a week and then maximum of certain hours a week. But instead what Greek government has said, that no, we want to promote businesses, we want more businesses to come here, we want growth friendly atmosphere, and we want more profits from if it's more profitable for corporates to come in Greece, we will allow that. So this is something that has been said. And but at the same point of time, productivity and work for what end is something we need to question. For example, there is this characterization by an anthropologist called David Graeber, who calls bullshit jobs as those who could disappear and leave the global economy utterly unaffected. And it becomes harder and harder to tell what works matter and what work doesn't. So for example, all these content creators, all these people who are into editing and who are into social media marketing, all these in fact influencers, in my personal opinion, is again, these are all what this anthropologist called as bullshit jobs, because of the fact that all of these works can be done by AI in the next few years. So this is something you should be able to discern what works matters and what work doesn't matter. And at the same point of time, uh, take this another line that is by Aristotle, that the end of labor is to gain leisure. So this is a line that you can start with when you are writing your answer on labor laws, or you can end it on this and start it on this. So make sure that anything with respect to labor laws, you're using this anecdote and this particular quotation to justify your answer. Then in answer in a question bank. Now again, we've read a number of articles with respect to the problem of paper leaks. Now what Vinesh Budre basically says is that you should have a question bank of sorts which can be disseminated among the students among at the beginning of the year, that similar questions will be asked like the pattern of this exam, and you can practice all these questions. And on the day of the examination, every center should have a different kind of exam, which is basically done on a security basis, a computer based exam, something like that. And the answers need to be written of that particular question paper itself, which will cut down on coachings as well, because now the paper has become predictable. And the other thing is that you now know that every center is going to get a different set of questions. So this is something that is being talked about. And he also talks about the fact that any particular institution who was not able to conduct free and fair elections, or free and fair examination, should be disregarded by NAC for any kind of ranking. So you can read about this particular article as well. Now, the next article. This is on Lok Sabha. If you want to read, you can read it. Maybe you can read the initial part, which you could write some kind of anecdote from, say, Ramayana or Mahabharata, when you're writing your ethics or your essay answers. Now, coming to first of all, let's come to this particular article. Right of new worker. Now, this is an article that I had also, I think, sent you on your WhatsApp group for D3. Now, the Karnataka government has come up with a Karnataka platform based gig workers, and it has asked for public suggestions. Now, this is the second act, if it becomes an act, after the Rajasthan Gig Workers Act. Now, one of the criticism of the Rajasthan Gig Workers Act is that it did not recognize the worker and the this thing relationship, and it said that these are all gig workers. They defined them as gig workers. So if you see, platform based gig workers are not, and there is a lot of text throughout the world which is basically saying that these are not actually gig workers. You have an employer employee relationship, and this is an example that you can use. Netherlands is now acknowledging drivers and platforms are modern employer employee relationships. They're different from what we had imagined, and even in UK and Spain consider associates as workers, but the Rajasthan law neither considers platform as an employee or the worker as an employer, or the other way around, but it declares a separate category which is gig workers. Now, and the platforms are called as while the Karnataka bill also calls companies and intermediaries, but it becomes very clear in terms of gig workers, and creates those mechanisms for formal contract between platform and the workers. Now, one of the biggest issue in this entire saga of gig workers is the arbitrariness in the actions of the intermediary. Now, intermediary here is like is basically like a monopoly, who can do anything without giving any explanation. Now, this is something because of its algorithm. Now, the Karnataka bill basically says that you have to give a 15-day notice before terminating anyone, and then you have to give all the data to the worker with respect to his work, for example his ratings and any other issue that needs to be done. So all this algorithmic transparency is required about the work, ratings, personal data. All of that should be available, and this algorithm should also be available with the workers and not just with the state. So this is another thing. The other thing is, and one of the workers should be compensated weekly, and the workers have the right. This is very important, folks. The workers have the right through Industrial Disputes Act, that means there is an indirect, however significant, manner in which it empowers the existing labor laws and potentially brings these gig workers out of regulatory lacuna, because now they have recourse to this Industrial Dispute Act. Now, you also need to remember that labor is under concurrent list, and despite the fact that the government has come up with the labor codes, a number of states have not adopted those. So this is something that you should be knowing. Then the next article is again a very good article. You can probably cut it and have it, because it discusses and in any case, when it comes to any kind of internal security reforms, whether especially when it comes to police reforms, there is a case that you need to note, which is called as the Prakash Singh case, which talks about the police reforms. So this is something that you already should know, or will get that information when you read about internal security and police reforms. But in general, Prakash Singh is a doyen in the police, in the architecture of internal security of India. He was the DGP of UP as well as Assam. Now, what he talks about is that what we need is a national security doctrine, which matches our internal and external security challenges. But if there is problems in developing external security, at least we should have an internal security doctrine, which would basically cut down on ad hocism. Then the Home Ministry, the Ministry of Home Affairs, has become extremely heavy, and we need young blood in that. For example, it gives the example of Rajesh Pilot during his time. Then the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, despite all the promises of the present day government with respect to Naya Kashmir, we have still seeing a number of instances that have been there in this area. And we should also know that the Pakistan deep state is always working against the Indian interests. So we should be aware of that, and take steps for organizing this security grid, and gives the statehood back. The next is with respect to Northeast, where Manipur is a lost case when it comes to the current government. It has not done anything with respect to allaying the fears of the population. With respect to Nagaland, we had signed an agreement in 2015, but it still remains on paper, because the demands of NSCM is that of a separate constitution and a separate flag. Then the next is Naxal problem. Yes, the Naxal problem has gone down significantly from somewhere around 96 districts in 2010 to only 42 districts in 2023. They are on the back foot, but at the same point on, this is the time to re-engage them in terms of talks with them. Then both Intelligence Bureau and CBI work on very weak footings. Intelligence Bureau has no this thing. It is only based on administrative order of 1887, by the way, and CBI, although has passed a resolution in 1963, but its ability to investigate is on DPSE 1963. This is something we need concrete laws and statutory backings for these. Then state police, it has to become from a ruler's police to people's police. And read about this example, folks. This is where I want you to read and research. Robert Peel, the former British Prime Minister, is remembered to this day for having reinforced reformed countries' police. So read about this and use this example in your police reforms, especially if you're a part of public administration as their curriculum. Then CAPF, again, you have a lot of issues in CAPF. There's issue of deployment, inadequate training, then lack of discipline, issues with respect to controlling cadre, which is the IPS versus the internals. And finally, use of technology should be there in all facets of internal security. Then another article, we want to be part of planetary defense mission. There's an asteroid named Apophis, which in 2029 will pass really close to Earth, around 4,000 kilometers away. But what we want is that we have shown, and the world has shown, that it has the ability to change the course of an asteroid if it's going to hit Earth. So this is why ISRO says that we need to be part of that particular group. Then coming to maybe you can read these two articles, Biden and Sunak, and what is happening. We have already talked about the largest parties in Nepal coming together to oust the CPIM, which is the Prachanda party, and Oli and Duba has come together with respect to that, and they are also talking about reforming the constitution. Now, coming to India may start procuring AI GPUs in the next 2-3 months. Now, you should note about what is the India's AI plan. Now, throughout the world, there are 3 kinds of models that are there. India is building a digital public infrastructure model for AI. Basically, it is saying that just like UPI, just like ONDC, we are going to build a common AI platform, which is really the government platform, and anyone who needs the AI use can log into it and use it as software as a service. So basically, just like you have Google Meet, that it has made a service and now anyone can use it. Similarly, the government is saying that it will procure these 10,000 GPUs, and it is an expensive mission that we have, a 10,000 crore rupee mission. But these 10,000 GPUs that we are going to procure, anyone can use it by paying certain service charge, and this will help spur a lot of data insights into small businesses, as well as develop their own kind of models if they want to build any models. So this is what our approach is, as compared to, there are 2 other things. EU has the AI Act, you should read about it, and then there is an executive order of US. All of them talk about how to regulate AI in each of these countries, and regulate the data control, regulate the idea of that most of these models are black boxes. So it should be much more transparent in terms of how the decision making is happening. So you can read about it. And then very important news, that there is a partnership called as GPAI, Global Partnership for Artificial Intelligence. It works under the secretariat of OECD, but now what is after the intervention from India, all non OECD countries will be taken at par with OECD countries under global this thing GPAI. Now you should read about what GPAI is. It was launched in basically 2020 by G7 countries, and now it has expanded to somewhere around 15 17 around 30 countries including India. And it basically talks about that how to integrate your AI into multiple facets of the society. But at the same point of time, the Indian government did not want that it should be exclusive to OECD countries. Therefore, it pushed for the non-OECD countries to also be part of GPAI, and then participate there. So this is something that you should study. Then services, as I told you day before, that services data will come on the third, and and the results are there. And now we have seen these services PMI also rises on account of new orders. So you can read about it, and what are the factors with respect to PMI services you should also know. Then two articles. One is election. In UK, we already know about these two sides. One side is basically the conservative sides, which we also call as Tories, and then you also have the left side of the government, which is basically the Labour parties, which is led by Keir Starmer. Now Starmer is supposed to is almost about to win, and the metrics of the economy are here, and UK, for by your I mean for your understanding, is basically comprising of England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. Now there are 650 seats that are there, and then you need 326 seats, and what is expected is that the Labour Party will win somewhere around 400 of these seats. That means they will come to parliament with a lot of majority. But at the same point of time, a number of steps have been taken up by these leaders. To win election, they are saying that they will cut down on any anti-Hindu elements, anti-India elements, as well as it has made the Labour Party much more central, because of the pledges that it has taken. Then what about what Labour win could mean for India UK FTA? Now you should know what PTA is, what FTA is, what economic union is, monetary union is, fiscal union is. So all of these terms should be clear to you as a part of economic student. Then Labour win could mean is that basically after the disastrous effect of the pullout out of EU, what UK is doing is UK is saying is basically signing similar EU like agreements with the agreement that it had with EU with each particular country. Now since now we would have a stable government, maybe they can fasten up this particular track, but still there are issues with respect to negotiations on climate and negotiations on visas. And then the continuing relevance of Franz Kafka. Now this is a very very important case for you folks, because there is a word called Kafkaesque, which basically means a nightmarish world of labyrinth of bureaucracy full of forms, permits, signatures, contracts. And when you are using any kind of word, use this particular word. Now this is the 100th anniversary of the death of Frank Kafka, and he's a modern he's a critic of modern rationalist, but at the same point of time he has written a number of books. So for example, you can give his examples in your essay and your ethics of his book called as the trial, which in which a man is accused of a crime but was never told what it was. And then Metamorphosis, which talks about a man who wakes up on a Monday morning, discovers he is turned into a giant index, but still continues to be worried about being late to work. This again is an example that you can use for your this thing as well, labor laws as well. So make sure you have these examples ready. Maybe you can use GPT for more examples and anecdotes from this particular author. Folks, this is all about our session for the day. Now we will meet tomorrow, both in our early morning session as well as we will meet at Mitra's at 2 o'clock for your prep discussion, and I'll also update you with respect to certain other developments that we are putting our focus into. So, and the distribution of the GPT passwords and the groups that you have to make, and if someone wants Copilot, maybe we can talk about that as well. All right, folks, thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow at 5 a.m.